Hello, everyone, and welcome to Illuminated Movement Astrology. I am Nikki, your astrologer, here to talk today about the 2025 elemental shift from earth and water to fire and air. It's a big one. We're going to talk about what the elements are, how you can work with them in a personal development sense, looking out for some of the pitfalls or the things that could go wrong as well, and hopefully give you some takeaways so that you know how better to incorporate this change of energy in your own life. So let's begin. Okay, so if you haven't felt it already, there's been some really big changes. And what's unique about 2025, amongst other things, is that the three outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, are all changing signs within a short period of time. And not only are they changing signs, but they're also changing element. So as we go through this, you're going to see that we have been in a long period of earth and water. It's been years now that we've had that energy predominating the collective space. When we talk about the collective space and we talk about the outer planets, we're talking about energies that we can't necessarily always control, things that feel like they come from the outside in, events, situations, again, things that may be happening in the world. They come into our world and it's like, what do we do with this, right? The ultimate goal of these planets is always to help you grow and develop, although it doesn't necessarily feel like that in the moment. It can really feel like the opposite of that. If you have your natal chart planets, like your sun and your moon, or your inner planets in contact with the outer planets, then you may be more sensitive to these big collective energies anyway. And it might just feel like this is a part of your life, like you're always kind of riding this big wave. And that's okay too. So wherever you are on that spectrum, let's dive in a little bit deeper and see what we are talking about with these energies. All right, so as I mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of different ways to look at astrology, many different viewpoints through which we can use the stars to guide us in life. So that could be mundane astrology. People want to know what's going to happen in the world or different countries or political landscapes, that sort of thing. I'm not going to be covering that in this video. So if that's what you're looking for, there are plenty of other channels that are out there doing that. I am not going to be doing that today. I'm going to be looking at it through a more humanistic approach, which is, again, how you can use this energy for your own personal development. So if that speaks to you and that's what you're interested in, great, let's keep going. If it's not, find another astrologer who is doing what you want to talk about. So astrology, I've said this in a lot of my videos, probably most of my videos, is really complex. And in the age of like fast information, getting all these things, downloads, TikTok reels, whatnot, astrology has kind of gotten a little bit distorted in certain ways. It's gotten much more popular, which we'll talk about too, because that's part of the transits that we've been going through, but it's also gotten a little funky. So you may hear things about a certain planet or an energy, and it kind of blows up and gets this virality. And then we think, well, that's all that's going on. And that's not true. There's so many things happening at once. And myself and any other astrologer really can't talk about every single thing at all times, right? It's a very complex, rich, and nuanced language, just like we are as people and just like we are as humanity. So just keep that in mind as you're going through your astrological journey, no matter with who it is. And then I always have to kind of address the wanting to know trap, because it's a trap. It really is. When we have astrological knowledge or we start delving into astrology more, the first thing that always comes up is, well, what's going to happen, right? How is this going to affect me? What's going to come into my life? And that's a really natural thing to want to know. We all want to have some security and some predictability and some kind of like preparedness. But what's really happening is we're trying to make sure that nothing bad is going to happen, right? Or that only good things are going to come. And the truth is, it's going to be both. And some of the things that maybe a particular astrologer might say, oh, this is so great. You know, you have a Venus transit coming up, but actually Venus is one of the more challenging and difficult planets in your chart. It may not feel that way, right? So there's a lot there about wanting to dive too deep into prediction or wanting to go, I think, too far into having life almost scripted for us. And I think that's something that we need to be careful of going forward as well, especially when Uranus moves into Gemini very soon, wanting to have this instant breakthrough knowledge without actually really looking at the bigger picture. Okay, so just kind of keep those things in mind. Remember, life is meant to be experienced, not just given to you in a, I don't know, chat GPT script or an astrological profile. It's like this year is going to be May looks like this, June looks like that. You'll meet this person then, you'll have this dinner date then, you'll have a job by September. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it does, but not always. So just keep that in mind as well when you're going through astrology, because it's really about choices. I think that's the best way to use astrology. Other astrologers will not agree with me. You may not agree with me. That's fine. But when we understand, like, here's a season coming up, like where I live in the Northern Hemisphere in the United States, it's coming into summertime. And where I live, it gets really hot in the summer. And I don't like being hot. Now I know that's coming up and I have some things that I can do to help me prepare for that. Right. So astrology is similar. It's like, okay, here's a period where certain energies are going to come in and certain types of events or psychological things are going to happen or whatnot. What do you want to do with it? How do you want to work with it? And I think that's the best way to approach astrology overall, again, from a personal development standpoint. Now, it's not necessarily true if we're using astrology in a different way, but through this lens, it works really well in my experience. So I've got on this screen on the left side, the earth and water symbols, right? These are the alchemical symbols for the 4 elements, and fire and air on the right side. So they're out of order on purpose. I grouped them together by similarity and also by what we've been experiencing. So as we go through this, think about what these things mean for you. How do they feel? How does earth feel in your life? How does water feel? What is fire? What's the experience of fire? What's the experience of air? You may have a lot of planets in your natal chart in a particular element that makes you feel more of an affinity to one or two of these types of energies and maybe not so much the others. So that can kind of feel like a different balance as well. And when we get these big kinds of shifts, it may propel you to one side or the other of having the more earth and water. Maybe your chart is full of that. Maybe it's really doesn't have a lot of fire and air. And so you've been really comfortable these past few years. And making this big shift is going to feel like, whoa, wait, pump the brakes. Or the opposite could be true, right? Maybe you've just been feeling like, man, I'm in this holding pattern. I just can't wait to like bust out and get my lightheartedness back. If you have a lot of fire and air in your chart, for example. So long time. I apologize. It's not a very pretty graphic. It's really just something I have in my own computer. And I tried to make it look nice, but I just kind of got lost in making it look nice and not getting this video out. So I decided to get this video out. But if we look at, I have the outer planet transits just kind of charted on a spreadsheet from 2008 to 2038. So about a 30-year period. And if you look over on the left side, right, you can see Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. And how long, I color coded them because that's how my brain works, but how long we've really been in the energy with these outer planets that take a long time to move in predominantly earth and water. If you look since 2018, we have Pluto was still in Capricorn at that point. Neptune had been in Pisces and Uranus joined in Taurus. And then we also had, I threw Saturn down there just as well, but we had some Saturn Capricorn in there too, right? And that hit in 2020 and Jupiter joined in there as well. And it was like, wow, so much earth going on. And if you look, we've had that kind of energy all the way up until about now, about 2025. Now, of course, in 2024, we had Pluto and Aquarius move, right? It moved in and out. It did its last time in our lifetime of being in Capricorn, one final time to clean that up before it moved on into Aquarius. And again, we will not see Pluto and Capricorn in our lifetime. Again, it's done, right? It's going to be another 250 years before it comes back. So now we have this shift from about 2025, and it'll be even stronger in 2026 when Saturn joins in with Neptune at 0 degrees Aries. And that's its own thing, which I'll talk about in another video because it's so big and it's so life-changing and it's so incredibly rare that it needs its own video. So if you look at that, we can see that we have up until about 2032, 2033, we're going to have a lot of air and fire. It's a completely different feeling, right? So in the collective, in the things that are happening, what's happening in our subconscious, right? What's happening in the underpinnings of who we are is changing dramatically. And while I'm on this topic, I just want to say really quickly, Pluto in Aquarius, because I get this, I hear this a lot. Pluto being in Aquarius is not the same thing as the age of Aquarius. Those are two very different things. So Pluto has a trip around the sun that takes about 249-ish years. For the ages to change, takes about 26,000 years. Okay, so we haven't had the age of Aquarius for about 26,000 years. Okay, totally different thing. There is some overlap. There is some people who think we are moving into the age of Aquarius. I happen to agree that we're moving from Pisces, the age of Pisces, to the age of Aquarius. But that is not the same thing as Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, Pluto just came from Capricorn, goes around 250, once every about 249 years. And age is about once every 26,000 years. Totally different thing. Okay. Maybe that'll be a separate video as well. I just kind of had to do that PSA because I hear that so much. And I'm like, no, not the same thing, darling. All right. So outer planets. As I've mentioned, they're long term. They take a while. And so they often are also referred to as the generational planets, Pluto in particular, because it takes so long to move. So we deal with these energies for multiple years. In the case of Uranus, it's approximately 7 years per sign. Okay, about 84 years to make a full trip around the sun. Neptune spends an average of about 14 years in a sign. Okay, it's about 165 years to go all the way around. And Pluto, as I just talked about in length, is about 249 years to go all the way around. And it differs. It's got a elliptical orbit, meaning it's closer to Earth for about half its orbit, and then it's further away for about half. We happen to have been in the closer period where things are moving quite quickly, and it feels like there's a lot more disparity between the generations, right? And we've been hearing a lot of things about the generations. Oh, the boomers this. Oh, the zoomers that. Oh, the millennials that. That's kind of what people are talking about, but not necessarily. And those things were shifting really quickly for a little while, about every 10 years. We were having like this turnover of brand new Pluto energy and brand new Pluto souls incarnating with a very different agenda. Okay, we're on the slower end now. So Pluto in Aquarius is close to 20 years. It's about 19 and a half years that it'll be in Aquarius. And then it's going to slow down even more through Pisces and so on. So with these long-term changes, we've had a lot going on in the collective. And again, they've been rapid and there's a lot more to this. But for the purposes of this, I want to talk about that earth and water. So the earth and water element. From about 2018 to 2024, we had major Earth. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto were all in those elements. And when we talk about earth and water, they have specific qualities. So earth and water with those downward facing triangles, and they're all chemical symbols, they're more of an inner feeling. They're more introverted. It's about our inner world. It's about being more receptive. Okay. In ancient astrology, it was referred to as the feminine signs. Okay. It's more yin-like if we were to use that type of reference, or you can think about it like inhaling and exhaling. They're both really important, right? This would be the inhale energy, taking things in. So we've had that for quite a long time, about 6 years, right? And if you really look back over your life, look and see, what did the last 6 years kind of feel like? Earth, what are we talking about with Earth? We're talking about the ground, right? Being grounded, feeling solid, having things that are dependable or reliable or predictable to a certain extent in some way. or we're looking for things that are comforting, right? Foods from the earth are nourishing. Okay, it's nurturing. It's a foundation. We have a saying, coming down to earth, right? Terra firma. It's something that is a solid piece that we can build on. There's been also the saying, go touch grass, like people that are losing touch with reality, right? Is that you need to go and like actually be in nature, come back to your humanity. It's a really important part of our lived experience. It's the senses, right? Water. So water, when we think about water, it's flowing, right? It has to do with our emotional landscape. It's depth, right? Water has a tendency overall, I know steam is a little different, but water, if we think about it coming from the sky, it comes down in raindrops. Water runs downhill. The ocean goes down deep, right? So there's a lot of depth associated with the water element and the water signs and any planets you may have in your natal chart or transiting. They're going through these signs. Okay, water is very intuitive. It deals with things that are kind of mystical, maybe things that we can't necessarily see clearly. Going back to the ocean, the depths of the ocean, right? We really don't quite know what's down there. It's really dark. There's some quite strange creatures down there, or at least strange to us. And it kind of can be a little like scary or foreboding, again, potentially to us, because it's unexplored and undiscovered, but yet it's there all the time, but we don't really know what's there. So that's where water can kind of be a little bit mysterious. It can be tucked away in our subconscious. It can be representative of things that are inherited or passed down through generations, right? Through the fluids from our body. Water also has to do with healing. Water is incredibly healing. If you think about if you've had a really long day and you're, fortunate enough to have running water and you can take a shower, it's like, oh, it feels amazing, right? When we're overheated and we jump in a lake or a river or an ocean, it feels amazing. When we drink water, when we're dehydrated, right? We wouldn't last very long without water. It nourishes us and it refreshes and replenishes us. So it's a really, really important element. And when we're talking about these things, we're talking about earth and water, right? To kind of break that down a little bit further, earth is really about our physical resources and our security, right? And water is about our emotional depth and mystery. The signs that earth and water are in charge of, right? We have Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, the wonderful, amazing, dependable earth signs. They're the doers and the builders and the lovers of life and the ones that have these grand plans and actually do them, the ones that pick through things and discern what we keep and what we don't, right? Really important functions within all of us because we have these signs within our natal chart, whether or not we have planets in our natal chart. At some point, a planet will pass through there and it'll activate this energy in our life, okay? So water signs, Cancer, right? Scorpio, Pisces, Cancer, dealing with family, dealing with memory, dealing with the moon, a sense of emotional security. Cancer wears its skeleton on the outside, right? It has this armor on the outside to protect its soft inside. Scorpio, talk about depths, right? Scorpio is so much about the depths of our soul and about merging, right? Water merges and flows together. Pisces, talk about mysteries, right? Pisces is really the mysteries of schools, the mysteries of life. What is the great beyond, 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 right? It's where ideas and imagination and dreams flow within us. So if you look back over the last about 6 years, may feel more like 5 because 2020 was such a boom, like, what's the word I would use? I don't even know, a boulder. It's just this huge like thing that came crashing down on all of us. But really it started a little bit before that. What is the last like 5, 6, 7 years like felt like in your life? Right? How has it felt? Maybe more of an emphasis on building things, foundational things, having to nurture yourself. Because again, we've had Uranus and Taurus, 2015 to 2025. we've had Neptune in Pisces, and we've had Pluto in Capricorn. So if we look at these things a little bit more, Uranus and Taurus. Taurus, I love my Tauruses. I have a Taurus sun. Taurus does not want to be shaken up, right? It just doesn't like that. If you think about cattle or cows, bulls, they're pretty peaceful, right? They're just outside. That's, I have a parrot and she likes to talk when I do videos. So she's agreeing with me right now. If you hear that woo in the background, that's the parrot. Cattle, right? They kind of just graze, stand under trees. They're pretty slow moving unless something startles them or shakes them up, right? Particularly bulls. They're protective of their territory and the other cattle around them, right? The mamas and the babies. And if you get in their territory and you piss them off, God help you, because they will come for you. And that's Taurus, right? So all my beautiful Taurus suns, risings, moons, planets in Taurus, really been feeling that shakeup, like big, 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 big over the last few years. And it's ending this year. Yay. I love Uranus. I love Uranus, but I'm ready for it to move somewhere else in my particular chart. So it's been shaking the things up. We talked about Earth. We talked about feeling solid, feeling like we can depend on things. It's been, for many of us, feeling like the rug's been pulled out, like Earth is not solid, like there's all these mini earthquakes in our lives. Sources of money or food have felt very tenuous. They've kind of been going up and down, right? Also, a lot of things that we've been dealing with in this sector or have been invited to look at are, how have your values changed? What's important to you, right? It may be very different than it was pre-COVID times, right? We've seen a large rise in people saying, you know what? I'm no longer willing to trade my blood, sweat, and tears and my peace of mind for someone else's BS or for a paycheck or things like that. I don't have to rely on clock in, clock out, do the same thing, because Taurus and all the earth signs can be like this as well, can get a little stagnant, right? Once something is it's kind of like inertia. That's really how I would describe Taurus, is it'll just keep doing the same thing until something changes it, right? So for all of us, we've needed something to come in and shake up the Taurus part of our chart, the Taurus part of our psyche, the Taurus part of life. And so have you found yourself slowing down? We've heard phrases like prioritizing my peace. I know that's been a big one for me. I've had to slow down. I worked myself completely into burnout, and my body said, no more. You're not working at that pace anymore. And I feel a lot better. And I can't believe how much more peaceful and steady and like quiet and calm I feel. And I really enjoy it. So that's been nice. There's also been a lot of breakthroughs and work with things like somatics. If you're not familiar with that, somatics has to deal with the body. And Uranus having to do, in my opinion, it really has to do with the nervous system. I know it has to do with other things in medical astrology, and I'm not a medical astrologer. But for me, it really does rev up the nervous system. It's all these electrical just shocks going on all the time. And it can kind of feel like the body maybe has been short-circuited, or maybe you felt disembodied. And so the rise of something like a somatic work, a somatic framework, somatic experiencing and therapy has been really helpful for a lot of people, bringing the body back down, getting the nervous system re-regulated, getting us to feel rest and digest and peaceful, so that we can do better things in our lives. We can be calmer. We can be more compassionate and rational. We can have a better sense of when someone else is freaking out around us, that we don't have to take that in, right? Which is useful, because there's been a lot of that out in the collective. So thinking about how, Uranus and Taurus has affected you over the last few years, how do you relate to these energies now versus, if you can even remember, prior to 2018? What did it feel like for you? Neptune and Pisces. Woo-wee. So Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces, for those that don't know. And it moved into Pisces around 2011. It had a brief stint in 2010, but really 2011 to 2025. And Neptune, or any planet, when it's in its home sign, is like It's like having a dimmer switch and the light is turned all the way up to 100. Okay. It's there. It's at full brightness, full capacity, doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. So we've had full strength Neptune, full strength Pisces for about 14 years. And it's been a beautiful, amazing, and really challenging journey. So Neptune is known as the great dissolver, right? The great mystic. So thinking about the past 14 years, what has come up for you? How do you relate or not relate to your spiritual path? What does that mean for you? Has it changed? Have you found yourself getting more of an interest in things like meditation or metaphysics or astrology or anything to do with that? That's been a lot of what we've been doing. We've also had quite a bit of talk about awakening, right? And that's different from woke, but has a similar word there. But really, dream states and awake states, what has that been like for you, or maybe for the people around you, if it didn't really feel like it affected you so much personally? How have you been potentially raising your own consciousness, right? Becoming more aware, becoming more compassionate and empathetic, or maybe going too far in those pursuits? Because Neptune has no boundaries. Pisces has no boundaries. It's everything and no thing all at once, right? It's that concept of we are all one and come from the same cloth, or like that Rumi poem line, which I'm paraphrasing, but we are the whole ocean in a drop, and a drop in the whole ocean. It's that, I hope I said that right. It's that kind of energy. So with all of that, we may have had a lot of heightened intuition or psychic phenomena, or feeling more connected. I hear so many more people talking about, galactic entities and energies, and we've gone way further out into space, much further out than we thought we ever could, that type of thing. So that may or may not speak to you personally, but that's a lot of things that were happening. One of the things that I find particularly challenging about Neptune, and this probably also has to do with having a Taurus sun, because I like things kind of to be solid and reliable, and Neptune is the opposite of that, is that things have been really kind of foggy and unclear. It's felt like we've been walking around and like things that were once solid, it's like, well, now they're kind of misty, or they disappeared, or the goalpost has been moving. And it's like, well, what's happening with that? That can bring up confusion, right? That can bring up a sense of loss and longing when things dissolve away. Maybe it was a career, a relationship, a person in your life, maybe it was family or a home or something. We do need a period to grieve that. And a lot of us have been grieving. Pisces in the 12th house has a little bit also to do with generations and things that we've inherited that are sitting in kind of the basement of our subconscious. And in many ways, we've been asked to bring those things up and deal with them and look at them so that they're no longer tripping us up, so that they're no longer keeping us bound to what's holding us back from essentially raising up and moving forward into a higher consciousness and into a better version of humanity on Earth itself. So that's been a lot happening. We may have found ourselves in places of wanting to escape into anything, really. Food, doom scrolling, the internet, just going outside, not talking to anybody. Maybe it's music, having headphones on all the time. All those things maybe have been coming up, but that's okay. That's also part of the process, right? We've been dealing with a lot of mental health topics as well, which has been really, really important, I think. The challenge has been on the opposite side of that. When we talk about Pisces and the opposite sign Virgo, they're on an axis together. Part of this axis has to do with victims and martyrs, right? The axis of service and sacrifice. And in some ways that is, again, has been turned up to 100%, right? So when Neptune moves, we'll see what people do with that, and who doesn't realize that the victim Olympics are over and who has gone in and said, wow, I really have a lot of trauma, or I really have a lot of things that are going on, and done something to help themselves move forward. Again, undoing the ties that bind. Right. So we'll see how that works, because ultimately, especially with Neptune being at Pisces, Pisces is the end of the zodiac. We have been ending cycles. And we have been ending cycles for ourselves in our chart, in our own, little drop of the ocean, but also in the ocean itself. And in a smaller sense, we've been closing out about 165 year. This is the last time, Neptune went through Pisces cycle. So a lot of things are coming back around so that they can hopefully receive some kind of, if not closure, then at least, what's the word I'm looking for? Some kind of resolution, even if it's temporary, so that we can move forward again. And that's been big. And again, that comes with grief and loss and a lot of those other things. So may have been feeling a little like, wow, I don't have my usual spark and enthusiasm and energy. And that's been part of this as well. Maybe this has been an amazing time for you. Maybe you've been dreaming a lot, you've been feeling really artistic, you feel super connected to consciousness and everything that's beyond, and it's been a beautiful time. That's amazing too, because you can take that when Neptune is going to move into Aries, and we'll talk about that coming up. Lastly, Pluto and Capricorn. I've talked about Pluto and Capricorn before. I'll do it kind of briefly. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. That sounds a little scary, right? But it's not necessarily in a literal sense, although it could be. It's more metaphorically where something is no longer working, that needs to be transformed, that needs to be given up or gotten rid of, needs to die off in a sense. And that can be really hard for us too. It's usually, although it can be something that's kind of more superficial or that we're not as attached to, typically when we're talking about Pluto, who's the modern ruler of Scorpio, we're talking about things that are meaningful to us and things that we are attached to. And that we have to, in a sense, give up willingly or not in order to evolve and move forward into the next phase of our life. And that can be quite difficult. But Pluto's not only that, it's also rules over buried treasure. And I've talked about that in other videos as well, if you look back on my videos list. But there is buried treasure under there. It's not for nothing. Pluto's not coming in and just being a wrecking ball in your life for no reason, just to get its kicks, right? That's not really what's happening. Okay, that's part of that victims and martyrs mentality that we are hopefully been working through and moving on, and understanding that, pardon my French, but shit happens. Things change, they end, they go away. And whether we like it or not, Pluto can really help us and be our best friend, because often when we look back, we can see that was a turning point in our lives. Eventually, maybe it takes years, maybe it takes a really long time. Eventually, hopefully, we can get down to that buried treasure and see how we have grown and evolved, hopefully in a positive way. Again, that may take a really long time, and that's okay. So Pluto and Capricorn, well, Capricorn, right? Another earth sign. It's the top of the chart. It is the sea goat that goes all the way down from the ocean to the top of the mountain. So Capricorn is about structures. It's about authority. It's part of the parental axis, along with Cancer. Again, dealing with generational trauma, right? Because Pluto is one of the planets that can talk about trauma, along with Uranus and Saturn as well. That can all kind of go together. So looking at what structures don't work anymore, or I guess I should say, where have we, to use the popular phrase, given our power away? And Pluto is about power. Where have we given it out to an external resource, where we've said this person or job or entity or corporation or whatever somehow owns me? They don't, in truth. It can feel like that. There can be a lot of like entanglement in there. But in truth, there's an inner authority within all of us. And hopefully this time period, the times of strife, you've been able to tap in and go, ooh, actually, what do I think in my life? Where do I need to go? Where Do I need to change how I'm working with boundaries? Maybe I have too many boundaries. Maybe I am so walled up that I absolutely will not let anyone or anything in my life. I'm just going to sit here in my little chamber and be. Well, Pluto is going to come through and kind of break that open and go, nope. Okay. Or the opposite. Maybe you've been kind of really on that Pisces and Neptune, like, oh, it's just everything is loose and fine. And oh, this is fine. You know, like that meme of the dog sitting in the flames. This is fine. When really it's not fine. So, and I know I'm kind of went on those extremes. I'm trying to make it funny that, trauma, serious trauma is not funny. I know that from personal experience. So we've had to really look at these things. We've had to look at the trajectory of our future. What do we want to do? How are we redefining success? How are we redefining the legacies we want to leave behind? Whether or not we have children, the future of maybe our community or a project that we have, or perhaps it's the planet itself. Looking at that, what does that really mean? How has that been reassessed for you? How have you dealt with all these upheavals? Because we've got 2 earth signs, 2 out of 3 earth signs getting just shaken up here with Uranus and Taurus and with Pluto and Capricorn. How have you reassessed how you use your time? Right? Capricorn, Saturn has to do with time, has to do with reality as well. How has it felt like, your reality has shifted? Because man, hasn't it? And now what do you want to do with it? How has it been transformed and redefined? And perhaps that still isn't clear, and that's okay. Sometimes it can take a little while for those things, especially with these slow moving planets, before we really see the fruits of our labor, so to speak. But hopefully, you've taken this time and really worked on, again, your inner self, inner resources, inner landscape, inner dreams, and things of that nature, because we've got some huge changes coming up. So just to give it a reflection, right? You can screenshot this and keep it. I'll try to, I should type this up and put it on my website too. So I'll link that down below if you want to look at that. But just kind of in brief, a couple of things. How do you now value yourself or things in your life? Right? What's changed there? Do you feel more at home in your body, or do you feel more disembodied? And you're like, man, I can't wait to feel more connected. How have you rewired your relationship to safety and security? These are all Taurus things, that Taurus Scorpio axis. How has that changed and shifted? And hopefully you've gotten some liberation or freedom from things that weren't working in that area of your life or your chart. Neptune and Pisces, right? How has your spiritual practice or interest changed? What has dissolved in your life? I know for me, there's been a lot. Are there cycles that have ended? When I talk to people from all over the world, they've talked about so many things that have ended in their lives. And it's like, wow, and now what? And that's kind of, we're in this space right now where we haven't quite shifted fully into the Aries energy. There'll be a little bit more of this Pisces coming back, but really just saying like, okay, I came to the end of something and now I can start imagining taking action, moving forward into somewhere else. And then lastly, for Neptune and Pisces, like, where have you felt disillusioned or lost? And how have you processed that, right? Or not? And there's no judgment there. For Pluto and Capricorn, we're looking at how is your relationship to your inner authority transformed, right? Are you still giving your power away? What systems or ideas of success have crumbled? Again, this could be jobs, it could be relationships, it could be houses, it could be family stuff. There's a whole litany of things that could fall under this umbrella. And then what has changed for you in terms of boundaries or topics of control? Because again, it can really go, and with Pluto, it tends to be extremes one way or the other. But perhaps, again, you were being too controlling and really hyper focused on something in your life. And then that was taken away. And it's like, oh, now what? Right? Or maybe it's the opposite. And maybe you're like, wow, I actually feel so much better. I feel so much more empowered. Isn't not going to have bosses that throw me around anymore because I know my worth because I worked on it. And I know what I actually want to do because I figured that out and I let go of all these beliefs and I dissolved them and I grieved over it. And now I can move forward, as an example, right? So moving to fire and air. I've got my fire and air colors on today. It's starting this year, 2025. And that's moving till about 2033. We're going to have all three outer planets in either air or fire. Okay, so when we look at the symbols, again, they're going up. The triangles point up. And if you think about fire, right? Fire, embers, sparks, flames, they go up. They don't go down unless there's some other agent there, but typically, right, flames go up and they dissipate, okay? Same thing with air. Air is moving around. It's more of an upward type of thing. Even if we're tornadoes pulling down, it's still pulling things back up. So fire and air, the opposite of earth and water. It's extroverted. It's energy that needs somewhere to go. It needs somewhere to move. It's associated with more of the masculine types of energy, the yang type of energy. It's the exhale part of the inhale-exhale dichotomy. So we've had this long time period of pulling things in, and now it's ready to let it out. All right, so if we think about fire, fire rules things like enthusiasm, right? We get fired up. That can be good or bad, but you want to get things hyped, get it going. If you are stuck in your life, find someone or something with fire. You don't have a lot of fire in your chart. You may notice that you're attracted to people with more fire in their chart because you need a little hype person in your life. It's like, you're great. You can get up and do this. Come on, let's go. Right? We all kind of need someone like that in our lives at certain periods. So fire, again, it's passionate, it sparks of curiosity, ideas, momentum, excitement, all those kinds of things. It's illuminating. It may have felt like we were in this really dark inner, I've been thinking about butterflies and caterpillars a lot, like a cocoon. Right now it's like, oh, there's sunlight out there. Wow, what's that? So we have this sense of, again, feeling lit up, hopefully with a fire in our belly, a zest for life after what may have felt like a long period of not that. Air. Air is so fascinating to me because we really can't see it. For all intents and purposes, it's invisible. But what we really see is the effects of air, right? We see it moving around. It moves as I'm looking out the windows, the trees outside, the leaves are moving a little bit. And it's really lovely. And I know that there's air circulation outside because I can see that happening, right? Air picks up seeds and carries them around, right, to be sprouted places. Also carries spiders too. I was just watching this morning, I was out in my garden, all these little baby spiders floating around on the morning breeze. And I was like, okay. So it carries things around, right? When we speak, we exhale, we're pushing air around, right? When someone talks too much or is full of themselves, we say sometimes they're full of hot air, right? Combining the fire and the air together. So it has to do with how we socialize, how we share, how we exchange ideas, like, and again, movement, right? Moving things around. Fire is action-oriented topics and inspiration. Air has to do with intellectual topics and relationships, okay, relating. The signs that these rule over are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are our three fire signs. And for our air signs, we have a Gemini, a Libra, and Aquarius. So let's talk about the outer planets and where they are going. So we have coming up, I should have put the dates in here. Sorry, I didn't. But Uranus and Gemini is going to be shifting very soon. Okay, so it's in its last push through Taurus. It's going to move into Gemini this year. Okay. So we're talking about, this has been coming up a lot, but we're talking about feeling more free to express ourselves, right? Freedom of speech and ideas, having this liberation of being able to communicate. And this is not necessarily to get into political topics. Is not the focus of my video at all, but it is this freedom of speech. And it could be something that maybe over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you've been working on. internally. Maybe you've been, gestating this idea for something that you want to actualize. And now is the time to let it loose. Start talking about it, start getting support for it, start getting people on your team, connecting with others to get it actualized in the outer world. Okay. So this can also come up with, how do we communicate? I'm talking to a camera right now, sitting in my little studio area in my house, which is really a different way to communicate, but I'm able to communicate with people anywhere, right? Which is pretty amazing. And that brings up a question with Uranus, because Uranus has to do with technology, use and misuse of technology. And that also ties into Pluto and Aquarius as well. Lots of topics around that, remembering that as amazing as all these tools are, because they are, that we also need to relate to humans. Okay, we can't lose our humanity. So we've spent 5, 6, 7 years working on, hopefully, our physicality, our physical needs, our body, our emotional landscape, so that we don't totally lose it coming up. Okay, I think nature, astrology, the planets are very smart. And they know we've got all this energy coming up. So hopefully we have a really solid foundation so we don't get lost. Will that be true for everybody? No. But hopefully we don't, lose what makes us, what makes us human, what makes it, in a sense, worth being here, instead of just stuck to a VR screen. But I'll get off my soapbox for that. Anyway, Uranus and Gemini, right? Talking about the nervous system, getting energy that's constantly moving. Uranus to me is like lightning bolts, right? Coming in and coming down. Well, now that's going through, in a sense, the mind. Okay. So having a restless mind, hopefully, again, you've taken from all this time with the earth and the water. How can you recenter? How can you get embodied? How can you come back and channel things that you're getting, all these downloads, right? Or just the mind just feeling like it won't stay still, right? Hopefully. And it's not too late if you haven't, and you're like, oh my gosh, I really should get some tools in my toolbox. Go get them. They're still there. Okay? It's not too late. But dealing with that, how do we deal with all this restless energy? Okay. I think there will be quite a few topics in revolution and education, and that can be really exciting. Maybe you've been waiting your whole life and didn't even know it for someone to start teaching about a topic that you're like, wow, I've always been interested in that. And I had no idea there were other people that were into that too, right? Making connections. It's a great thing, right? We're going to have lots of innovation. Hopefully comedy is going to come back, right? Gemini is a bit of a trickster. It likes to joke, likes making lots of jokes, right? And Uranus can be lightning fast with it. So I know that I love comedy. I have missed it. I'm ready for it to come back. Hopefully we get, again, a little bit of lightness after so much heaviness. It's been a bit of a drudge. Excuse me, I need some water. Okay. Neptune in Aries. So this one is a big one. Again, this is the birth of, the parrot is excited, the birth of a 165-year cycle. And again, next year, there'll be a special transit where Saturn joins Neptune in Aries at 0 degrees. Why is that such a big deal? Just briefly, 0 degrees is the start of something new in astrology, and Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. So we have like a new, okay? New reality, new dreams, new visions. Saturn will come in there and help us solidify those. Okay. Or might put some stumbling blocks in our way too and delay it. So we'll see. But anyways, we have Neptune first coming in. Saturn's going to follow. So what are we talking about? Well, we've moved from Pisces, the collective, everything and everyone. We're all connected all the time. Very, very, very boundaryless, right? Kind of forgetting that we are also the drop in the ocean. Aries is going to remind us that we are an individual drop within that bigger ocean, because it's still Neptune. Okay, so it's still going to be that ocean of possibilities, if you will, going on that metaphor, but it really has more to do with sovereignty, right? Aries is the I am principle. I am here. I am angry. I am going there. I am passionate about this. I am angry about this, right? So it has to do with our head and moving forward. If you watch Rams, they go forward with their head, right? Action first, think later. And it's really about what the individual wants. And that's great. Okay, we've had a long period of thinking about kind of globally and everyone else around us. And that has hopefully prepared us to work with, well, now I've still got that Neptune energy. I'm still aware of the whole ocean, but how do I want to be a drop? And what do I contribute to the ocean? Okay. So it's not about, being overly self-centered or things like that. Like Neptune's not really gonna, I think overall, it's going to kind of keep us from going there, and Saturn as well. We'll still see it, but in general, it's going to be more about like, how do now that I've had this long period of kind of hibernation, cocoon time, my caterpillar shifting to butterfly, like, how do I want to do that now? Right. So, do I have courage to follow the dreams, the things that I've been thinking about wanting to work on, but couldn't quite get moving because there wasn't a lot of moving energy for years. It's been a lot of like containing energy, but now it's changing. So how do you want to move forward? Neptune, again, it's such a beautiful planet for like music and art and movies and theater and dancing and magic as well. So how can we do new things? Can we be inspired again? I know I used to be, I spent a lot of my life, most of my life being a dancer, and man, I miss art and music and theater. It got very, again, kind of heavy and formulaic and rote, and it's felt like it's been missing the spark. And this is absolutely not a commentary on anyone that I know personally. I'm not commenting on your work or your art in any way. But it just kind of has felt a little stuck. So I'm excited to see, well, what's coming up, right? And maybe this speaks to you. So we have all this creativity, we have all these things. Aries needs to move. Aries can get really restless, and Neptune can kind of diffuse that restlessness out. So maybe it's not as strong, but also maybe it's filtering into places it doesn't need to be. And I love my Aries friends. I have so many Aries friends. They're amazing. And sometimes I've noticed that they will start some drama because they're bored. So if you find yourself in this space of like wanting to kind of like nitpick things or start fights or get about stuff, maybe you're bored. Okay. Maybe you need to like go do something productive. So yeah, just a little tip there. And I love my Aries people. Y'all are the best. Pluto in Aquarius. We've talked a lot about this one. I'm sure I'll talk about it again more, especially now that we've been living in the energy for a little while. But man, what a difference from Pluto in Capricorn. Am I right? Moving from so much of a sense of having to work on like generational trauma and solidifying things and internal authority and over authority, under authority, boundaries, all that kind of stuff that we've been dealing with. Well, now it can move. And again, if we've done the work, right? Aquarius has somewhere to breathe, it has somewhere to go. Pluto here is going to topple things that do not work. Okay. They're gone. So for the people that are kind of clinging to this idea that things will go back to the way they were, I'm sorry to tell you, not happening. Okay. We had the time we had with the structures and the things we had and the way that we had them. And now we're going somewhere else. Where? I don't know. Okay. We haven't written that part of the book yet collectively because Aquarius isn't as the collective sign. So that's another big shift here that I'll just mention briefly is that prior we had Capricorn, Pisces, which are two collective signs. They have to deal with the masses. And then Taurus dealing more with being subjective, like my stuff, my needs, my body. Okay. Now it's flipped. We have Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries. So that's two personal signs. Aries is I am, right? Gemini is I share. Aquarius is like we are. Okay. It's the collective of this is what we think. This is what we're doing. This is what we have in common. This is us as humanity. So we have this interesting dynamic that it went from two collective to one kind of personal energy to whoop, two personal, one collective. So watching out for rigidity and groupthink, feeling pressured to be part of a movement or to be part of an idea or something that is asking you to give up who you are as an individual in order to gain acceptance. Okay. We're already seeing those kinds of things out in the world, because really, truly, at the end of the day, both Pluto and Aquarius, even though they're really different energies, and Pluto is so much about getting to the heart of something, and Aquarius in so many ways is like, let's just go out there and float away and think about things, be intellectual about them. Pluto is going to experience them. So those kind of things, they have a little bit of a clash in their goals, how they want to go about achieving their aims. But Pluto's going to win out here. So we need to remember that who we are authentically has to do with who we are at the heart. It's the opposite energy from Leo is the heart, or excuse me, from Aquarius is Leo, which has to do with our heart, right? And having that love and that attachment. And when we feel like that, when we're in a community, that we can really be ourselves and share and express, and other people are doing that too, it's so beautiful. And that's what really, that unity brings things together. Yeah, we express it differently and we may come from different backgrounds, but really we're united for common reasons and a shared purpose. And if you find yourself in a place, in a space where you're not allowed to do that, that means rejection and alienation, which is a shadow side of both Uranus and Aquarius, is being rejected because you don't fit the mold. Okay. So just watching out for that as we go forward. Yeah, and really, I mean, Pluto and Aquarius is really going to move us to places we didn't know were possible. Same thing with this Neptune Saturn coming up in 2026. I mean, that transit itself, just to go back to Neptune briefly, I can't even find an ephemeris, which is the charts of where the planets are, old enough. And I've gone back about 8,000 years. I can't find one that has Neptune and Saturn at 0 degrees. Now, I'm not super tech savvy, so maybe someone else has written a formula where they can find it. If that's you and you know that, tell me how to do that or show me where that is. I would love to see that and share that. But as far as I know, I can't find that happening for at least 8,000 years. Pam Gregory, who's a very well-known astrologer, she has her own astrology channel. I've had the pleasure of learning from her at London School of Astrology. She's just absolutely lovely human being. She has talked about, from what she's gathered, that it's been about 12,000 years since that's happened. So if we think about that, we really are on the precipice of being able to define things and change things and live things that maybe have happened in some way before, you know, the revolution, the spiraling that happens in life. But we are on the precipice of so many exciting things. It's hard to, like, I don't have the words for it, also because we haven't walked it yet. So really this time, I know there's a lot of upheaval, there's a lot of shift, there's a lot of change. It can feel a little funk, but there's so much here that has the potential to be positive and incredible and amazing and take us to these really, really amazingly beautiful heights, especially because I believe there are more of us that took the energy prior and did the work than the other way around. Okay, no matter what the media or whatever, the person in your community who always gripes and complains says, there's more of us that have done the work and are excited for creating, in a sense, like a new not even a new chapter, like something, a whole new set of novels, really. All right, so reflecting on where we're going. Uranus and Gemini, just a few things to ponder here. There's, of course, a lot more. And if you've got other things you are pondering, or write them down in the chat, share them. Let's hear what you got to say. How can you be more active in your local community? So Uranus and Gemini, right? Gemini has to do with Our brothers and sisters as well has to do, and there could be some changes in that arena for you as well, but it also has to do with like the things that are right around us. So short-term travel, short distance travel, which I think about in a modern sense of like, could I walk there, ride my bike there, or take an Uber there? Okay. So that's kind of the locality. And again, bringing things back in, I think with the internet and with so many things that have happened, of becoming really aware of the world at large, which is not a bad thing, but just having that, it's expanded so far that it also needs to come back now. And like, do you know your neighbors? Do you know the people who sell flowers where you are, or whatever it is? Do you have a connection to the local coffee shop or what have you? How can you foster things that are closer to you? Because we also need to balance that out. It's going to be really important with all this tech, right? That can get us really, in a sense, connected but disconnected. Make sure you're doing things kind of in that smaller space as well. As I've talked about a few times, like, are you ready to challenge groupthink? Okay. Or potentially early life messaging that's holding you back. There could be things from your childhood that you learned, that you got messages about, that Uranus is going to come in and break open because it's trying to liberate your mind. It's trying to liberate things that are stuck. It's going to take you out of things that are known. Okay. And that can be quite uncomfortable or not. It depends. Really depends on the subject, right? When we get an aha moment, that can be aha, oh my gosh, amazing, I'm so excited. Or it can be like, aha, oh crap, right? So just be open to that. And then again, with the classic Gemini stuff, like, how can you embrace writing or speaking or learning or teaching or any of those Gemini kinds of things, working with your hands? Like, how could you incorporate that into your life? Okay. Because the planets really want something to do. When they have an expression, particularly one that's on the healthier spectrum, they work better. When they don't have something to do, we talked about Uranus being restless, it feels more like things come from the outside and blindside us because we're not actively participating in our own evolution. So, with those ideas, moving into Neptune and Aries, right? How can you use your imagination to be inspired? Right? What have you been dreaming about? It's time to stop just dreaming it in the cloud bubble that is your mind reality, right? And bring it into the outer world. Okay. How can you support the emergence of a new sense of self or life direction? Remember, Aries is I am. And depending on where this falls in your chart, this may be perhaps you're an Aries rising or you have your sun in Aries. It might be, how am I going to be a new me? How can I take that into action and make sure that it's aligned with my spiritual goals, that it's aligned with something bigger than me? Okay, because Neptune is those things that are bigger than us. That's how we get the muse, right? If you've ever been an artist, you know that you channel your art. It really comes from some other place, and you are the vehicle through which it expresses. So if that resonates for you and you get what I mean, that's Neptune and Aries, right? Being able to really do something and take that and action it after a period of feeling like we couldn't, or it was just kind of same old, same old. And then I always think this is important. Do you have creative or healthy outlets for your restlessness, anger, or aggression? Right? Give it something to do, because when it doesn't have anywhere to go, it's going to either turn inward on yourself, or it's going to go out to the people most likely that you're closest to, because that's just the way it works, right? We tend to be politer to people. Well, we used to be politer to people we don't know. Actually, that might not be true anymore. Anyhow, like, don't let it leak out in inappropriate, misdirected ways, right? If you do feel a lot of anger or whatever, that's great. That can be fuel for the fire to do something positive. It doesn't have to be destructive. It's possible that it will be. We can definitely see that out in the world, right? People being very destructive. It doesn't have to be. Okay. So just give yourself things to do. If you start getting irritable or funky, you're like, you want to bash your head into the wall, right? Because you're annoyed about something, go move that energy, get it moving. Fire needs fuel to keep going. Otherwise, it's just gonna, right, burn itself out. And that can be good or not good. So just keep that in mind. Pluto in Aquarius. Are you open to discovering and sharing the real you? Now, you may already be doing this. Okay. You may already have a really strong tie to this kind of sentimentality. And you're like, yeah, okay, I get that. So maybe this is more about finding a tribe or finding like-minded people or helping others who are struggling with finding their authentic selves in some way. Okay. Can you use technology in healthy ways? That is going to be, and there could be some debate about that, right? Transhumanists will say that they're using it for healthy means. I don't know that I personally agree, but that's neither here nor there. But again, making sure that you're actually talking to people, you're not getting lost in the sauce, in the void, in the allure. Okay. There will be some amazing things that happen. There will be some not amazing things that happen. Can we tell the difference? Can we stand up for the difference? And how can you shine your individuality while allowing others to do the same? Okay, that is also that Leo Aquarius axis, right? The shadow side of Aquarius can be, I'm going to take all the light. Some people are better than others, and I am superior. Like, we really get that kind of funk going on there. Or denying other people their time in the spotlight, right? It's actually a shadow Leo side. But that could come up. Or it's also like, well, I can't be myself with this group, or I can't be myself around these people, or this person drives me nuts, right? They can only do things the way that I want them to be, or the way that we've decided they should be, and nothing outside that is allowed. So just be aware of that. When you're calling for people to be authentic, it's one of those things where we can think we're being right authentic and unique and original because they're all Aquarius and Uranus things. And then we find out that, 500,000 people are doing the exact same thing. And we're not so special after all. So, that can happen and that can be a blow as well. But just being open to like, wow, I am, again, my own unique, amazing, special drop in the ocean. And so is the rest of the ocean. And that's okay. So, whoo, that was a lot. So I hope that's been helpful. Doing just a little quick recap here. So we have things changing big time this year. The elements are huge. We've gone through, I use the caterpillar and that butterfly, right? Looking at where you were going. We have been moving from this long period of being in our caterpillar cocoon, right? And now it's time to move on. So, in other words, we've been developing through earth and water. Who am I when I feel grounded, secure, valued, and nourished physically and emotionally? So that we can put into action, now that I've healed and integrated, what am I here to express, do, create, or share? That's your big recap there. Okay, that's looking at that. And again, we have positive and negative expressions, right? So we're moving from earth and water to fire and air. We can really maybe be resistant, like wanting to stay in the cocoon, not wanting to come out and share. There could be a lot of anxiety around that. That's a possibility. We could be overcompensating, like, now that I'm free of the cocoon, I'm just gonna go out and talk and share and poke and tell everyone what to do and say what I feel like saying and screw the consequences. And that would be the best way to approach it. So try to take these two things, even though it does feel like such a kind of a line in the sand, use them to integrate, to develop, to grow, and hopefully not over or under function, although it's possible. And you know what? Not every swing is a home run. So if you hit some foul balls, I know I will, as usual, but eventually there'll be a home run in there, right? So if you need a deeper dive, some things there that you could ponder about, like what part of me is ready to emerge or to speak, right? Or to share, to create after this long period, after my inner journey. Okay. So even if you're not familiar with your own personal natal chart, you probably have a sense of where this is, right? And usually the chart will also confirm that. How can you utilize, again, where you've come from, this emotional past, this perhaps it's a generational story, perhaps it's the story of your early life up until now. All the things that you've gathered along your journey are important for this next part. How can you use that? Not just dumping it, but use what is best available for where you're going forward. Okay. Where can you loosen your grip on control or safety, right? In service of your personal growth. So all that water and that air, I don't want to say they're timid because they're not, but they're not as action oriented or as extroverted as the air and the fire signs when the air and the fire signs are functioning optimally. So there may be like, yeah, but I'm comfortable here. I like my blanket and I like my stuff where it is. And it's okay. It's familiar. Be willing to let that go in order to move forward. Maybe just a little bit. Maybe, it's not blanket every day, but it's blanket 6 out of 7 days. Great. Okay. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be a small thing and a meaningful thing. And that works too. So don't feel like, sometimes I feel like when I listen to people talk about astrology or other things, it's like you have to upheave your whole life and everything's going to change. And it's like, maybe, but it could be also just smaller ways too. And that can lead to actually something really beautiful. So don't feel like you have to just, especially if like you are an introvert and you are kind of like, I like this, don't feel like you just have to go outside and just suddenly be someone you're not. Okay. I've kind of heard that from some astrologers and I'm like, yeah, that's not necessarily the right thing for everybody. So do little things, little pieces, little bites. That's great too. And if you're going out and you're upheaving everything and changing everything, great. Do you, right? So always a question, will I feel this shift? So as I've mentioned throughout this video, and I was going to briefly say it here, the more planets you have in your natal chart that are in fire and air, the more you're going to feel this because it's going to turn them on. Okay. It's like a wall of switches and we're turning on fire and air now. And we're turning, we're turning down, not off, but we're turning down some of the earth and water for a little bit. Okay. So that will be it. Also, if you have your angles that are hitting these charts or things that are making what we would call more the difficult aspects, which is the conversation between planets, are they butting up against each other? Are they in a tug of war? Are they right next to each other? Those can sometimes be more dynamic and can bring something to the surface because we need to address it. Okay. The other so-called more easy aspects, although they're not always more easy, they really just flow. They flow and amplify each other. And that can go either way, right? So looking at that could be an indicator as well. And it could be something like perhaps you're looking at your chart and you're like, well, I don't have anything in Aries, for example, but you have an angle there. Like maybe it's your IC down at the bottom of your chart, your Imamcelli, or maybe it's the midheaven or something like that. You will feel it when it gets to that point. So I know for me, I have no planets in Capricorn. Capricorn rules my 7th house and my descendant. I really didn't feel Capricorn. I felt the square to my midheaven IC. For those of you that don't understand what I mean, just let it flow through. But I felt when it hit my descendant, when it hit that angle, oh my goodness. It was like, oh, now it's on. Now we got the party started. And I was lucky. I got a 5 passer between, God, I can't even remember. It was squaring my natal Pluto because my natal Pluto was conjunct my IC, and then it was hitting my descendant as well. And it was like, oh my gosh. And it was years of that energy and it was wild. So I didn't really feel the Pluto in Capricorn. I mean, I saw it happening, but then it was like, oh, now it's real. So that's also possible too. If you have nothing, no angles, no planets in that house, it may feel just a lot more subtle, or it could be something that you see happening, for example, in your workplace, but it's not so much like directly in your face, all up where you have to deal with it. day in and day out, inside out. It could be something that's happening in more of a subtle way. So don't be afraid of transits. They're never as bad as we think most of the time. Okay. And even if they are, we somehow can get through them. But with all the hyperbole on the internet, everything's a bombshell, everything's shocking. It's like, oh, for the love of, please choose different words, because not everything is a bombshell or shocking. Sometimes things are just quiet. That's nice too. So just remember that astrology is here to help you, right? It's really not here to cause you problems, to kick you down. It's just life. And again, I don't play baseball, but I love the metaphor of not every swing is a home run. You're going to hit foul balls, you're going to hit grounders, you're going to sacrifice some of your hits so that someone else can get on base. All other things are possible. So don't let astrology make you go crazy or give you like anxiety. It's so not necessary. Just let it help you grow. Let it help you make, again, different choices. So I hope that was helpful. Let me stop sharing my screen. Ooh, okay, that was a marathon. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some things to ponder, to work with in your own life. Again, I'll write this down. I'll put it on my website if you like it, in written form. So you can look that. My website is illuminatedmovementmvmt.com, which will be linked. And really just enjoy these transits to the best of your ability. Even if you're not looking forward to them, maybe something good will happen. If you are looking forward to these and you're like, hallelujah, now we can get out and get, some spirit fingers and shoulder shimmies back in our life. Great. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope to see you next time. If you like this, let me know. Share it in the comments. I try to respond to them to the best of my ability. So I'll take a look at them. Thanks so much. Till next time. Mwah. Take care.